So I'm reading The Way of Kings. I'm actually just about to start chapter 7, so it's about 126 pages done. And I want to talk about what's happened and what I think is going to happen in this book. So we join Kaladin, and he is in fact a prisoner. It looks like he's going to be sold into slavery, and this is a logical jump from where we left him at the third prologue, also known as the flashback. And I'm happy to have got that prediction right, but like I said, it is a very simple logical jump that if you are defeated by someone else's army, the options are pretty limited as to what you're going to be doing afterwards. So we join him. He's with some other people who are presumably soldiers of that battle, and they are going to be sold to the highest bidder. Although this does seem a bit strange, obviously I'm not up to date on all the politics yet. As far as I knew, it was two of the princes or two factions of the same nation who were warring. So it seems strange to sell people of your own country into slavery, but there's a strong chance that I might have misconstrued that or misunderstood. But either way, we know he's about to be sold into slavery. One thing that is very interesting during this period of time with Kaladin is the Windspren. And in the flashback, it's mentioned that the wind kind of like forms around him and glows around him. And this Windspren, she builds a relationship with Kaladin, which from Kaladin's reaction would make it seem like that's something that's very unusual. And then right at the end of this sixth chapter, she gives herself a name, even though she's surprised to have one. She gives herself a name, and she's interacting and talking with Kaladin as well. And this is obviously really interesting. So the question that arises is, was she with him during that battle that we saw at the flashback, because we saw the wind kind of, come around him? Or is this like a product of who he is and his magical abilities that we don't know anything about yet? I would guess both. Not necessarily was it her with him during that period of time, but maybe it was a different Windspren or other Windspren. And I would guess that he has the ability, well, he obviously has the ability to speak with them. So is this going to give him some power over the Windspren so he can use them for what he wants, or simply allows him to harness some of their power by speaking with them and giving them names and treating them differently to those who probably can't see them and speak with them as well? And something that just occurred to me is it might be a possibility that only the people from the perspective which we can see the world can see these Spren. I mean, it's probably unlikely, but I don't know. It hasn't been like widely talked about from one character to another that the Spren are there. So it's a possibility that only the people that I'm reading through can see these, although a slim possibility. And we also get a mention of some of Kaladin's previous failures, and there's a few different things that pop up. We get the corpse of a young girl who's very pale. We get Tien, Tux, and the Takers, I believe it is. There isn't much extra explanation, but again, as I mentioned in my previous videos predicting what's going to happen, I think that most of what we're gonna get with Kaladin is more learning about what has already happened and just seeing his abilities and skills help him in the present moment of the book. I think there's a big arc previously of this man, and I think that's what we're going to be learning about. So we'll probably learn a lot about what happened with those failures, and I would guess part of the reason why this surgeon, as I guess that he was, has been pushed into being a warrior and is feeling such a bit of an anguish towards the world, especially right now, but I feel like it was kind of there already even in the flashback. Overall, I really like Kaladin. He seems realistic, very determined, heroic, has noble intentions, but he's also quite human. And I said the word realistic, like in the cage, the moving cage that he's in, before, he gets sold into the army to move the bridges, which we'll cover in a minute. Fantastic scene. He kind of gives up, he stops caring about what's going to happen, and he's tried to escape so many times, and that's good, not good for him, but just it makes him a more relatable character. It makes it seem like he's not just some blessed character who can only see the good of things and it doesn't have to try hard to stick to their principles, because that's pretty unrealistic. So overall, I've been a big fan of Kaladin so far. And then he gets sold into the army that he wanted to join anyway, but not in the position he wants, he's going to be working the bridges. And that is a fantastic scene. We get to meet Kaladin's grit, and we get to meet his determination, and we get to meet his doggedness in the pursuit of a goal. And a lot of it is fueled by this, what you can only guess is going to be a minor villain of Gaz. And Gaz is in a lot of books under different names. Essentially, he's the smaller person with a modicum, is that a word? Modicum of power, and he relentlessly holds it over the head of those that he has that power over, causing absolute misery and soul crushingness. But I don't think Gaz is going to be a problem for too long, and there's a couple of reasons for this. Number one, well, Kaladin's one of our main characters, but number two, we already know he's going to be extremely proficient as a soldier, and there's going to be an opportunity that arises, and he'll take that opportunity, and they'll realize that he is going to be much more valuable to this army in a leadership role. Or the second thing is, if I'm right in guessing that he is the surgeon that's mentioned on the blurb, maybe he'll be put into a role where he can use those skills to help people out. Maybe someone gets really ill or injured and they think they're going to die, someone of power, and he steps in and sorts them out. So those would be my guesses for Kaladin's near future. And we do get another point or hint in the direction of being the surgeon, because the woman who buys him has a sore on her lip, and Kaladin notes what route would be the best to fix it. And Sanderson does this in like a real sneaky, subtle way. And again, I might be completely off, but I feel like I'm getting a little bit better at noticing when Sanderson's trying to sneak something in under my nose. And I'll probably look back at this video and laugh, because I've probably missed something massive and huge in some of the clues for that. But I'm confident he's the surgeon. Last thing we get from Kaladin's story before the stopping point that I got to is we see this kind of giant rock, like 20 feet high, I think it's mentioned, and inside of it is slimy and gooey, and it seems like innards. And the only thing that came to mind for that was, obviously a shard blade must have cut that, because we know that's a shard blade's forte, is cutting through things that shouldn't really be able to be cut through by anything else. Is it potentially a thunderclast? I mean, I doubt it, because there was no mention of these giant beasts, but that's the only thing I could think of that could relate to that. But clearly that's going to be really important moving forwards, whatever that huge rock with slimy innards is. It's obviously one of the motives of this war is either control or destroying those things. So we meet our second character, or maybe third, is Shallan, or Shallan. Shallan is from a noble house that is in disarray. Her father died, I believe it is, and they're trying to hold everything together. They have debt coming out of their ears. So what we think originally is she is going to win the favor of Jasnah, who is a heretic, but is extremely important politically. But it comes out that actually we may have located our thief instead. She spies the soul catcher of Jasnah and resolves to steal it, and it seems like that was what her plan was already. And the blurb would make it seem like this thief isn't becoming a thief, but has already been a thief. So I'm interested. I'm immediately quite drawn to Shallan's storyline, and the reason why is because it's going to be, for want of a better word, ballsy. Probably bold is a better word. It's going to be a bold storyline out of necessity. She has so much on the line already, and there's a few different ways I could see this going. We see a different type of magic from the soul catcher, and I can't remember what the name is for the people who operate that, but Jasnah is one, and she turns like rock into smoke, which is very cool. So Shallan wants to go and steal this. We know, well, I think there's two ways this goes. So I think she's going to try and steal this, and either she does manage it, and then she's running for the rest of the duration of this book, which I'm not inclined. I don't think that that's going to happen, and I don't really want that to happen either, because Jasnah seems like a really cool character, an interesting character. I'd like to know her more. What I think and hope is going to happen is Shallan finds a way to tie herself to Jasnah in what she thinks is going to be her waiting out and biding her time to steal this soul catcher, and then use it either for its power or sell it for its money so that she can save her house. But during this period of time where she's getting to know Jasnah, I think a different opportunity will present itself, and she finds a more efficient and effective way to tie Jasnah to herself, and therefore get the political clout and potentially money she needs to fix her family, and I hope we go down that route instead. However, I do want to see her thieving abilities, so I'm torn as to what I want to happen, but I think that second thing will happen rather than her being on the run from Jasna for, you know, the rest of this book. So what else happens? We have more mentions of the Everstorm in these headers for each chapter, and I mentioned it before, it would seem like these are experiments being done, or at least observations on people who are being killed or murdered, or, well, that's the same thing as killed, or people who are dying. And I think that they're looking for clues for the original prelude visions of the Everstorm and how to defeat it. And they're also looking to see if one of those Oathbreakers is going to reveal themselves as they die, so they know they've added another one to the 10 who can come back and save them from it. So that's interesting. I also have another prediction. So there's 4 people on the back, so 4 people on the blurb. So to read this again, we have for whom we watch: the surgeon, forced to forsake healing and fight in the most brutal war of our time. I have enough evidence to be pretty certain that that's Kaladin. The assassin who weeps as he kills, I would say that's Veth. I'm gonna have to commit to one of these names. I'll probably go Veth. The liar who wears her scholar's mantle over a thief's heart, 99% certain that's Shallan. And then the prince whose eyes open to the ancient past as his thirst for battle wanes. Originally I thought we didn't meet this person, but now I'm like 126 pages in, and by all means it's a huge book, so they could introduce another 10 perspectives, but the only other person whose perspective we kind of got was Sen in the flashback. So we didn't learn much about him. He's very young. Potentially he's a prince. I don't know. I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that he is, just because it felt like there was some purpose when he was being mentioned. It felt like Kaladin saved him for a reason, as I mentioned in my previous video, rather than just because he's a young lad, because of the timing of when he purchased him to be in his squad. So I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that Sen is our prince. And it says that one of them may redeem us, one of them will destroy us. I don't think I have enough evidence to guess who is who, but I think the one that will destroy us isn't doing it on purpose, and I would guess, it's hard to guess. I think Sanderson obviously likes to redirect, and I don't even know if these characters are who I think they are. If I'm going to go out on a limb, I'm going to say that Kaladin has all of these principles. The obvious choice is that Zeph is going to destroy us, and then Kaladin is going to redeem us. But for some reason, I feel like that's going to be swapped around because it's Brandon Sanderson and he likes to do the old flipperoo. But again, I have absolutely nothing to base this on, so I don't feel super solid about those predictions, if I ever do feel solid about any predictions. So what's next? What's next is I'm going to finish this part 1. It's about like 195 pages total, so I've got about 70 to read. So I definitely will be done in time for the next video. If you've enjoyed this, I have a bunch like this on my channel. I did the Wheel of Time. I did Joe Abercrombie's series. I also did Mistborn, so I'm sure you'll find something that you like inside of there. Please like, subscribe and comment, and I will see you on the next video. I appreciate it.